Eventually, you'll be forgotten. You, me, everyone. But what if it doesn't take decades, years to happen? What if, even before you're gone, no one remembers your name, not even yourself? This is the core concept of our journey to the end of the ceasing world, where there's a mysterious phenomenon that's causing everyone's traces of existence to fade away. The vanishing, as it is called, typically progresses slowly, in stages. First, your name is lost. Nobody, including yourself, knows it anymore. Traces of it disappear. Any mention of it in handwritten text, printed documents, digital files, everything. Second, your face is lost. You vanish from every photograph you're in, be it in digital photos, paintings, and even in the memories of others. Third, your color is lost. Your looks turn monochromatic as if you've been snatched from an old movie. Fourth, your shadow is lost. Light passes through you and no shadow is cast. Finally, your very existence is lost. You die, your body disappears, and everything you attempt to leave behind vanishes too. At best, there will be those with vague memories of you. At worst, it'll be as if you've never existed in the first place. As you might be able to imagine, in a world without legacy, it can feel meaningless to conform to someone else's expectations, especially when you can't know the desires of those not around anymore. Which brings us to our main characters, consisting of two students who go by the aliases boy and girl after losing their names to the vanishing. One day, they say, screw it, and quit school to set off on a journey to the end of the world, to travel without the intention of stopping, to travel until time catches up with them. Along the way to their non-existent destination, the duo meet various characters and learn how each decided to keep themselves busy while they wait for the inevitable, which could be in several months or years if they're lucky. It's not exactly a joyful setting, not when they're the only ones left from their families. However, the story chose to keep the tone lighthearted for the most part. Similar to our main characters, the people they meet have all lost their name, all going by an alias instead. It's interesting to learn why each chose a certain alias. Some simply go with their job like boss, manager, assistant, and so on. Meanwhile, some have their alias decided by others around them. The story is at its finest when striking a balance between learning about the main duo, the side characters of the current chapter, and the world itself, the world with no proper nouns. Unfortunately, the story doesn't achieve that balance often enough for my liking. For one, the main duo feels too shallow in the first half. There's a recurring gag with these two, which is probably to keep the tone lighthearted. However, I think it already becomes tiresome the second time it's used. This repetition also comes at the cost of making them not feel like real traveling companions, and more like a comedy duo instead. Although there are instances of genuine interactions between them, these moments are few and far between. What also doesn't help is the dialogue. It's indistinct. Characters blend in with one another because no one has a unique speech pattern. In a vacuum, that's not an issue to me. The story also omits dialogue tags in some conversational scenes, presumably reflecting the vanishing phenomenon. Again, that in itself is not an issue to me. A rather appealing concept, even. However, when these two are combined, they only serve to disrupt the pacing and my immersion. The question of who's saying this line crossed my mind too many times. Speaking of pacing, let's talk about the first two chapters. The story opens strongly, organically introduces the main characters, the situation they're in, and how they live their life. The narrative builds and sustains this compelling forward momentum. It jumps between intrigue, comedy, suspense, and a laid-back atmosphere beautifully, all without feeling jarring. The first chapter is remarkably paced until it is not. While it still has that momentum, it suddenly starts wrapping things up and ends before I knew it. It felt like the chapter still has more to explore about the side characters, but concluded prematurely. I think it's a shame, and I found myself wondering what could have been. Nonetheless, it offers a decent preview to the story's general tone and structure. With that being said, let's move on to the second chapter, my least favorite one. It mainly suffers from being too long, around twice the length of the first chapter. Unfortunately, it is not twice as interesting, not even close. Despite being lengthy, the chapter fails to utilize its page count wisely, with character development and world building taking a backseat for the majority of it. I almost gave up on the entire story because this chapter seems more interested in detailing the process of the character's side project, ironically sidelining the character development. Thankfully, it does take a turn for the better, delivering an engaging and gratifying conclusion that somewhat redeems the mostly tedious chapter. The ending and the following interlude reveal the deeper layers of the main duo. Additionally, the streak doesn't end there. The third and final chapter continues this trend by displaying the boy and girl as genuine traveling companions thanks to how they confront a significant issue in this part of the story. The recurring gag and humor in general are still present, but they are executed with a more refined and tasteful approach. I'm also a big fan of the side characters of this chapter. Their contrasting worldview to the main duos allows for compelling conversations to take place. The previously mentioned dialogue problem is mostly gone too, because of the scenarios that are better suited for the absence of dialogue tags. The improvement in dialogue alongside the overall more focused writing results in a noticeably better pacing in this chapter. Reading it was a mesmerizing experience, making it my favorite chapter. To top it all off, everything related to the story's conclusion is nothing short of outstanding. The final chapter's ending, the subsequent interlude, and the epilogue are all exceptionally well written. They fit with the story's tone, stay true to the characters, and deliver a satisfying conclusion to the narrative. It made me forget how much of a drag reading chapter 2 was, even if just for a little while. Overall, I found our journey to the end of the ceasing world to be an enjoyable read. The setting of a world with no proper nouns is intriguing. The narrative delivers a strong start and an engaging second half, followed by a well-written ending. However, the book's held back by several issues, especially in the first half. It struggles with inconsistent pacing, indistinct dialogue, and main characters that feel shallow. It's not a must-read title, but if you find the concept interesting, it could be worthwhile to give it a chance.